everyone, it's Bethany, and in this tutorial I'm going to share how I store my leftover scrap vinyl and my leftover HTV. So you know all those little pieces that you see me cut off of projects, and I always say I'm going to save this for another project. I have a little idea for how I'm going to start organizing and storing all of my little scrap pieces. So I'm really excited to show you. I actually made my vinyl box yesterday, and so I'm going to show you how to do the HTV one today because I was just too anxious to see how it would turn out, so I wanted to do one of them beforehand. So what I did was I purchased a file box, and this is a really pretty acrylic file box. And then I found some really sweet little file folders that are lemons. Aren't they really cute? And so what I did was I created a file folder for each color of vinyl that I am going to store. So of course I did the rainbow colors, and then I did a gray, a white, and I have one as well that is a pattern. So that will be all of my pattern vinyl that I'm going to save. So I thought this was a really nice way for me to be able to slip in some scrap pieces. As you will see, there are some little scrap pieces of pink in here in the little pink file. And then you can just do this any way you'd like. You can put any colors that you use on here. I used my most common colors, and then of course if I had like some black color that I needed to save, I could slip it in with the gray. You can just go ahead and organize it any way that you would like. So now what I'm going to do is on the front of the box I'm going to add a little design. So I am going to say what it's for. So I bought a box for my vinyl, and then I bought one for my HTV as well. So I'm in love with this idea. I'm going to show you a little bit more on how you can put yours together as well. So what I did was I went ahead and made all of these little tabs, and I made them with vinyl scraps. So what I did was I was trying to go back and forth with how to make these. I thought maybe I'll use construction paper, or I couldn't figure out if I wanted to put them inside or not. So what I did was I got little strips of my extra vinyl or my extra pieces that I had, and then I just made all the little tabs for the front. So I thought that would be really, really cute. Plus it's a really obvious way to make the little colors because we're going to be storing scrap vinyls inside. So what I'll do is I'll show you how I created this. So the file folders come with the little tiny tabs. It's hard to see, they're clear, but they come with the little tabs that you're going to slip into the little hanging file folder. So what I did was I went ahead and I made these a 1/2 inch long strips. So I went ahead and did that, and then I cut them off and I removed the back of the vinyl, and then I just placed my little vinyl piece on top of the tab, just like that. And of course you can see that that is too long. So then what I did, just so I could have it perfect and make a nice clean cut, is I took my scissors and I just trimmed the sides. And I thought, after making however many I made, I think it was maybe a dozen or a couple dozen, this turned out to be the easiest way to do it. So you can do this any way you'd like. You could fold it and then put a piece inside, but then I was worried that the piece would fall down. But I decided to do it this way because I thought it just looked really clean, really sleek, and then it just looked really polished at the end. So that's how I made the tabs. So then I put them in the little file folders, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to create the little letters that go on the front of the box. So let's go ahead and pop into Cricut Design Space. I'm going to show you how I'm going to use some of my scrap vinyl. I'm going to use 2 different pieces, and I'm going to use a layer font. So I'm going to use a font that has multiple layers so that we can layer a little pink piece on top of the white piece. And I thought it would be a really good idea to use scrap pieces for a scrap project. So I'm going to be using some scraps that I have. I'm going to use a white Oracle, I think this is Oracle 651. This is their glossy white. And then I'm going to use this Cricut patterned vinyl. This is really pretty. I have this in HTV and in vinyl, and I'll link everything below so you can see it. So I'm going to send those to the Joy, and then we are going to create the little labels for the front of the boxes, and I will show you how I'm going to place those on one on top of the other.
Okay, so here we are in Cricut Design Space, and I need to create a box for my HTV. So I just typed out HTV, and the font I used is called Kate's ABCs. So for this, I wanted to have a multi-layer font, and what that means is that we are going to have a pink color on top. Let me see if I can grab that. Let me ungroup this. We're going to have a pink layer that sits on top of the white layer, and I'm going to click undo so those go right back together. And how I found a font that did that is I came up here and I went into search fonts, and I went to this little filter button right here, and if you click this filter button you can click multi-layer fonts, and it will bring up a variety of fonts that have 2 layers. So if you're interested in doing a project that has layering in the fonts, you can go ahead and filter your fonts that way so you can see which fonts work best and are offering that feature. So again, this has a double layer, so it will have the pink right on top of the white, and I have it already sized how I want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and select my Joy, because that's the machine I'm going to use, and then I can click Make It. And I'm actually going to set this on a mat because the material I'm using is not smart material. So I'll select on a mat. And again, it reminds us that that is for any material. And then I can go ahead and say done. And then it's going to place my white vinyl on a mat. And then it's going to place my pink vinyl on another mat. So then I can just load those separately. So it'll call for the white first, and then I'll go ahead and be able to click continue. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select premium vinyl as my setting for both, because that is the closest setting for the vinyl that I am going to be loading into my machine. And then I'm going to go ahead and load the white on first, then the pink, and we'll send them both through the Cricut Joy and get them all cut out.
Okay, so I have all my little scrap pieces over here, and it's calling for the white first. So I just grabbed a little bit of my white, and I'm going to place it on my mat. Now you can use the shorter mat as well for this project too. I just have a little bit more stick in my longer mat, so I'm going to use that today. My little short one needs to be replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and load that into my Joy, and then I can go ahead and select Go to get that cutting. And things we're going to be using are, let me select to go, we're going to be using a weeding tool, some scissors. We're also going to use a scraper to help get our vinyl onto our acrylic file box. And then again, we're using some scrap material. So all the scraps that I don't use for this project, I can go ahead and put in my scrap file folder. So I'm really excited for this system. I think it's going to really help because right now I just have them all in a box and it's such a mess. Okay, so this is how I'm currently storing all my vinyl and HTV. I have a box for my vinyl, and I have tutorials on how to make these actual boxes. It was actually my very first tutorial that I created on my channel, so I'll link it up here in case you like this idea better. So this worked really good for a long time, and I liked it, but as you can see, it's just a mess, and it was really hard for me to sort through and find the colors that I needed. So my new system with the file folders and the hanging folders and dividing them up by actual color, I'm really enjoying that idea more because I think it's just going to be quicker and more efficient. So this is already done cutting, and we can go ahead and unload this, and we will go ahead and take it from our mat and get it all weeded. And in the meantime, what we can do is we can grab our pink piece, and I think we just barely have enough, but I wanted to use scraps for this scrap project because it just seemed so appropriate. Okay, so I'm just going to trim off this top piece, and I think we can just fit it right here. So I'm going to be really careful, place that right on my mat. Okay, I'm just going to grab my scraper and just scrape that down a little bit, and then I can, again, I'm using the premium vinyl setting in my Cricut Design Space to cut this out, and it's going to get this all cut out, and we can get weeding our first piece. Okay, and then I'm just going to grab my little weeding tool and I will weed this out. So I'm going to just grab a little corner here and weed my extras. Okay, and so I can unload this one. It's all done, and I just barely had enough. You guys will see in just a second when I weed this that I was using the most of my material for sure. So I'm going to cut off all my extras on this as well and make sure I can save what I can save. Okay, and then once again I will weed this little part out, and I'll show you how I'm going to layer these one on top of another. Okay, Okay, so here are my final pieces. I have the pink piece that will go right on top of the white, so they're all weeded and ready to go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to use some clear transfer tape, and I want to use clear because I am going to be layering, and I want to be able to see through my transfer tape to be able to line up my letters one on top of another. So I'm just going to remove that from the backing, and I'm going to place it right on top of my pink letters right here. Okay, I'm going to grab my scraper tool and just scrape those down. Okay, and then I like to personally flip it over and do the same to the back. Okay. And then while it's flipped over, I'm just going to peel at an angle, and then I have my patterned vinyl on my transfer tape. So now what I'm going to do is I might actually place my design back on my mat just so that it can stay really, really flat while I'm doing this next part. And I'm just using the advantage of that sticky mat just to keep all of that flat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this. Now you guys can do this however you want. If you want to place this on your acrylic file folder first and then place this on top, you can, but I'm going to grab both pieces at once and then place them on my project. So again, you can do this however you'd like, but this is what works for me, and that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to hover over and get everything lined up, and once it's lined up, I can set it down just like that. Okay, and then I can go ahead and grab my scraper tool and scrape it all down. And again, there's many ways you could do this, so be sure to pick the way that you feel most comfortable and confident with. For me, this made the most sense and I was most comfortable with it, so this is how I decided to layer my vinyl. Okay, and so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my mat over, and I'm just going to grab my little piece off that now has two pieces of layered vinyl, being very gentle, so don't ruin it. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to get it all flattened down here. Okay, so now I'm going to get my little acrylic box ready. Now I have my layered vinyl all ready to go, and I will get this placed on the box. So now I'm just going to take some rubbing alcohol, and I'm just going to make sure that the top of this file box is all clean and ready to go for vinyl. So I'm just going to rub some all over. Okay, and then I'm just grabbing a dry cotton swab just to make sure that there's no streaks or anything left over from the rubbing alcohol. So I'm just going to get that all cleaned off, and it looks great. So now it's all dry, it's all ready for the vinyl to be placed on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip that over and grab my little design here. And again, this has two layers of the vinyl, one on top of the other. Okay. So that's all ready, and now what I can do is I can just center this in the middle of my box, wherever I'd like it. Looks good right here. And I will lay it down. And I just use my fingers in the beginning, and then what I can do is grab my scraper tool and really scrape those letters down and just press into them to make sure, not pressing too hard because this is acrylic, so you don't want to break it or anything. It's pretty sturdy, but I still want to be gentle with it. I'll go ahead and link where I found this. I went crazy at the Container Store and bought a bunch of stuff for organizing, and this was one of the things that definitely is going to help me get organized. Okay, so now I can go ahead and grab my piece of transfer tape from the corner here, and then I'm just going to slowly peel, and it will leave both layers of my vinyl right on my box. There we go. How pretty does that look? I couldn't decide what I wanted to do, and then I can save this, of course, what I wanted to do in terms of color, but I really like the white. Let me see if I can put my hand under there to show you a little bit better. I really liked that white outline over the patterned vinyl. I thought that looked really pretty. So now what I can do is I can just place all of my little tabs inside. So I'll go ahead and work on that so that they're all ready to go. Okay, so I have a box for my vinyl scraps, and then I have a box for my HTV scraps, and they look really, really neat. And so, of course, these will be sitting up, and so you'll see, the file folders through and hanging right inside. So that's why I wanted to do like a really fun file folder. They have a lot of different types and a lot of different patterns that you can use as well, so you can pick any type of style. I thought this was just really bright and cheery. Plus, in the future, if you ever wanted to change it out, file folders are not very expensive, so you could change them out, and then you could just replace your tabs in there as well. So the tabs looked really, really cute. So now for my scraps, what I can do is I can just separate them out. So I could have all of my white right here, so I could go through and find my little white tab, and I could just place those inside. And then I also have my patterned vinyl, and I could just go through and place that inside. So that way, when I go to do a project, instead of going to my rolls of vinyl first, I can go to these bins and see if I have an appropriate size and see if I can do the project out of scrap. It just allows me to go to the color really quick, find what I need, and then be on my way. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I thought this was a really fun idea, and I hope you guys are inspired with how to get a little bit of organization in your craft space. If you only wanted to purchase one box, what you could do is you could do vinyl on one side, and then you could flip it over, and then you could put HTV on the other side, and you could just have your other HTV folders on this side if you have limited space and you didn't want to do, multiple different boxes. So that's another idea as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please be sure to give me a thumbs up, and in the comment section, let me know how you guys store all of your scraps, because I think everybody stores them a little bit differently. All right, everyone, please be sure to subscribe, because we have a lot of fun things coming up to the channel coming soon, and I hope to see you all in the next video.